Esoteric Encyclopedia of Eternal Knowledge by Vernon, continuing with H. How courage arrives. Yes, it takes courage, but a sincere invitation to that virtue assures its delivery. Courage comes as needed, for every earnest request is supplied. You are then poised and confident, without even thinking about it, in places you never dreamed possible. But of course, we're now attaining many heights we once thought impossible. There is a particular place where courage races to the rescue. It is the stage in our journey where we refuse to choose our usual rewards, for they are now seen as attractive but empty packages. Now, no longer choosing them, they no longer come. So we feel anxious at the absence of the familiar face, the thrilling activity, the pleasurable pursuit. With quivering apprehension, we wonder whether the promised land has been just another illusion. We feel trapped, like a carpenter who is commanded to neither finish nor abandon a half-built house. Wait, courage will appear, and with it a clear mind. You will see that uncertainty was a necessary tunnel to pass through, which produced a miracle. Out of your very honest uncertainty arose hearty courage and insight. How humiliation heals. Are you aware of your ability to make decisions in favour of yourself? Decide to end inner conflict, then give no thought to the consequences of the decision. It is strange how a turn towards trueness arouses uncertainty. We insist upon fearing our own freedom. What we fear is the humiliation of all that has given us name and position, but it is the very crumbling of name and position that sets us free, for they were unconscious chains. Humiliation can be compared to an actor suddenly caught by the audience without his costume. It hurts for a moment, but then he remembers the man under the costume. By permitting total humiliation, we permit it to destroy the fantasy, leaving only the liberating fact. How to break habits. People often ask questions about breaking unwanted habits, such as overeating and alcoholism. All our usual thoughts about breaking a habit will only strengthen it. This includes so-called positive thoughts, such as plans for ending the habit. Mechanical thought cannot break a habit because thought itself is the habit. Thought cannot rise above its own level. A man in a pit cannot use himself to rescue himself. Something not of the pit is required. What is this higher power? It is the silence residing between two thoughts. Watch your mind, and you will glimpse this quiet interval between one thought and the next. This silence is not mechanical thought, therefore it is not chained by habit. Ponder everything you have read in this section. One morning the dawn will break, and you will see. How to prevent mistakes. There is a way to prevent the repetition of mistakes. Any time spent with this program is worth more than gold. Suppose you make a mistake on Monday. It will not repeat itself on Tuesday if you watch the mistake as it happens, wishing to be fully conscious of it. This means to understand everything involved in the error. One man became involved time and time again with the wrong people, including girlfriends. All the relationships eventually ended with quarrels and heartache. Wanting to break the painful pattern, he studied himself in action. He saw how he was driven by loneliness and insecurity to get mixed up with almost anyone. His full consciousness of cause and effect enabled him to drop the harmful habit. His new understanding showed him how to say no to a worthless relationship. Your new nature corrects mistakes. Let consciousness release its power. Human targets. Philip spoke up in the group. Sometimes I feel like a target struck by society's arrows. Piercing words and events strike throughout the day. I suspect self-centeredness here. Your explanation would be appreciated. There is just one way to get over feeling like a target. You must stop being an arrow. Target and arrow always go together, and both exist within you. When you insist upon shooting your arrow, you also insist upon being a target. See this in small ways at first. If you shoot an arrow of hostility towards another person, you become the target for his returned hostility. Self-shocking honesty is required. A dishonest man always thinks he is the innocent target, never seeing how he makes targets of other people. Hypnosis and reality. Asked Joyce, please give us something we need. When told you dwell in a state of psychic hypnosis, do not take it as mere words which seem somewhat critical. Take it as the actual condition which controls every minute of your day. You do not as yet know what it means to be hypnotized, for you dwell in imagination, not reality, but do not realize this. You do not know what it means to be hypnotized, for you have not as yet caught a glimpse of the awakened state. Try to snap yourself out of the spell, after which comparison will clearly reveal the fact of psychic hypnosis. How can we see and snap this unconscious spell? By regularly standing outside of yourself and looking back at your daily behaviour. With tremendous honesty, see your need to feel superior to others. See how you fear disturbance of your favourite ways. See how little you really know about yourself. Each sincere effort at this changes the kind of human being you are. Identification. Begin today to comprehend the enormously important idea called identification. Your understanding will sweep away 1,000 difficulties in a flash. To identify means to believe that something gives you an identity of some kind. You can identify with anything: money, sex, public prominence, your own thoughts. A man exclaims, "See, I achieved my goal, therefore I have an identity as a successful man." In a gigantic blunder, he mistakes a mere idea about himself as being himself, and that blunder causes dozens of other errors, including fear of failure. A very common form of identification is to identify with external activities. By chasing round and getting involved, a man tries to convince himself of the importance and usefulness of what he is doing. He deceives himself with the self-description, "I am a dynamic and impressive man," but his nightmares know better. Esoteric wisdom urges him to slow down and take a look at the tragic trick he is playing on himself. That alone will save him from himself. Imitation. Imitation is always unconscious. A person imitating another's ideas or behaviour patterns is unaware of doing so. He insists his ways are both original and independent. He will resist being told otherwise, for his cluster of imitations have hardened into what he calls his I and me. The last thing he will permit is the destruction of what he calls his individuality. Among other errors, he fails to realise that by borrowing another man's habits, he also borrows that man's problems. When you are with people, watch how imitation operates. Someone uses a fancy phrase, such as man's inhumanity to man. A hearer is so impressed he can hardly wait to repeat it in order to make a good impression for himself. Realisation of an imitation life must precede the arrival of real life. Immunity to injury. At a Saturday class, Helen said, "Last week you urged us to build more self-honesty. I've been trying to succeed. Now I am sure there are many blunt truths about ourselves we need to face. May we hear one of them? Whatever is wrong with other people can do you no harm unless the same thing is wrong with you. Do you see how a certain cosmic law operates here? You can get hurt only as long as you occupy the same psychological level as the person who hurts you. Rise above that level and you are immune to injury. An airplane passenger cannot be hurt by rocks tossed on the ground. "I'm sure that all of us here grasp that with our intellects," said Helen. "Now we have to feel it with our whole being. Do you now see why you are given all these blunt facts? Why? So you won't walk out of here into trouble." Impossibilities. One way of describing man's blunder is to say he attempts to do the impossible. He tries to make illusions look like realities. He wants the excitement of worldly success without the fear of worldly failure. This is impossible, for life gives and takes naturally. He can rise above these opposites to true success. He loudly declares his wish to get along with others, never seeing that this is impossible until he gets along with himself. He is deluded by thinking there can be a difference between his inner and outer worlds. There is only one world. He tries to twist truth to fit self-interests. Impossible. Truth will not bend. Instead of trying to change truth, he must let truth change him. Through true magic, the sighting of the impossible also reveals the possible. Self-rescue. Information and inspiration. The teachings in this book fall mainly on the mind and upon the emotions. For learning to take place, both must be open to the lessons. It is as important to understand with the feelings as well as with the intellect. Both must develop together and equally in order to maintain balance. A person dominated by his intellect is a repetitious tape recorder. An individual commanded by his emotions is an unpredictably erupting volcano. Happily, the growing stability of one part reaches over to steady the other part. It is like two horses who cooperate perfectly in pulling forward together. The mind receives practical information. The feelings receive empowering inspiration. The section you are now reading is informational, while a later section, invitation to refreshment, is inspirational. See the difference in the two, then welcome both information and inspiration. Inner and outer. "There is a teaching I wish to grasp more fully," stated Alan. "The inner and the outer are the same. What does that mean?" "Start by examining your relationship with yourself. What is it like? Do you have inner quarrels? Are you torn back and forth? This is your self-relationship. Now look outward. You will see that your relations with people and events are exactly the same. They must be. A wolf is a wolf, indoors or out. Dressing him in a wool coat does not make him a lamb. Now see the cheery side. As you change inwardly through self-insight, you change outwardly also. You have no quarrel with anything, for you have no quarrel with yourself. Is that worth finding?" Inner work. In a temple in Tibet, a teacher was urging his students to be more receptive to truthful principles. As a visual lesson, the teacher took a drinking glass and stuffed it with paper. Holding out the glass, he instructed a student, "Fill this with water." "Because of the condition of the glass," replied the student, "it cannot be done." Shaking the paper from the glass, the teacher said, "Can it now be done?" The students understood the lesson. Careless association with society as it now operates is enough to guarantee a stuffed mind, stuffed with the pompous and the frenzied and the stupefying. Where is room for the unaffected and the poised and the comprehensible? Our inner work is a ridding process. Innocence. When anyone condemns you, silently ask him, Who gave you the authority to judge me? By judging me, you claim to be superior to me. Where did you get this sense of superiority? Honestly now, what are you really like inwardly? Have you ever judged yourself? Say this without anger. Say it with a calm mind, which wants to see things as they are. This is a good start, but you must go on from there. What you have done up to this point is to free yourself of the illusion that one unawakened human being is better than another. Keep in mind that all sleeping human beings are equally unjust. Do not be deceived by external appearances by which individuals and groups claim rightness for themselves while attributing evil to others. Having freed yourself of condemners and condemnations, go on from there. Study your actions to see just where you may be walking in your sleep instead of performing conscious actions. Then, finally, you will see that innocence alone knows what life is all about. Instant healing. We need to know more about raging emotions. They are heat without light. You need not fall under them. Do not unknowingly consent to going under. That is half the victory. You once said we can call the bluff on anxious feelings. What did you mean? If you will look long enough at what frightens you, it will get frightened and run away. How can we test the ideas by which we live? Does your philosophy change you? If not, change your philosophy. I don't know the meaning of authentic strength. You are truly strong any time you are not negative. How long will it take to solve ourselves? Esoterically, time has no power for self-healing. Healing is instantaneous. The moment of understanding is the precise moment of healing. Intelligent procedure. A new class was formed in Minnesota. On the first night, the teacher stated, "This is the place to ask questions you would not ask any other place." Accepting the invitation, Harvey said, "The question haunting me can be asked in just 4 words. Why am I afraid?" Why are you afraid? Because beneath exterior appearances of strength and confidence, you are aware of the thin thread holding you to what you call your security. You know very well how a sudden change in circumstances could drop your surface happiness into the basement. Why don't you simply examine fear instead of fearing it? Has that highly intelligent procedure ever occurred to you? Many people never consider that simple solution. Why do you assume you must fear fear? Why not let insight set you free? That is why we have started these classes. Intelligent self-action. As an experiment in self-awakening, let other people behave towards you in any way they wish. Make no attempt to change or influence their behaviour. Neither resent what they do nor talk about them to others. What is this all about? It is all about liberation. You are as free from other people and their behaviour as you are free from yourself. It is not their actions which really bother us. Our trouble is our own insecurity, which demands that they keep us safe and happy by doing what we want. So it is the individual who must change, not his relatives and friends. As you let others behave as they want, which they will do anyway, an interesting change occurs within. In astonishment, you realise that your demand on their behaviour is the only cause of your own anxiety. They had nothing, really, to do with your distress. This is what is known as intelligent self-action. Intelligent voyaging. In the days of sailing ships, a schooner was caught in a mild storm off the coast of Scotland. One of the passengers was a young schoolteacher on her way to a new assignment in a coastal village. Worriedly, she asked the captain, "Is it possible we might miss the harbour?" The captain assured her with a smile, "We may stray a bit, but the harbour can never be lost." Safety is always possible, because your real nature can never lose itself. So have no concern if you cannot at presently apply all these projects to your individual conditions. Just be diligent in learning your lessons in psychic navigation. You may forget your destination many times during the voyage, but your authentic nature will never forget. Ally yourself with what is right in you at every appearance of rightness, such as the urge to discover facts for yourself. That is intelligent voyaging. Intense interest. During a group meeting in New York, everyone was asked to make comments which would brighten the light. Bruce was the first to speak up. When first attending these meetings, I was shy and nervous, not sure what I was getting into. I sat there with an apprehensive mind, but my timidity was quickly replaced by an intense interest in what we discussed. Someone, I think it was Susan, made an excellent remark. She said that man yearns to harmonise with his real nature, just as a poet seeks a second word to rhyme with the first. That struck home. That was what I had been trying to do for years. I sensed there was authentic help in this group. Bruce shook his head and laughed lightly. The new student wonders how he can ever give up the attractive dangers in his life. The advanced student wonders how he ever kept his sanity while embracing them. Interesting adventure. Visualize yourself with a large map of a country you intend to visit, perhaps Australia. It is a very detailed map, filled with interesting and helpful information. Wishing to learn all about Australia, you settle down to study the map, but meet a problem. When the map was given to you, it was tightly folded, and in some way the sections are stuck together. You succeed in loosening one of the folds, which provides your first peek at the country. With patient work, you unfold another section, which supplies more information. Each unfolding adds more awareness to the nature of Australia. Finally, the entire map is spread out before you. Now you know everything you need to know. Our interesting adventure is to unfold ourselves to a full and valuable view of our total nature. Internal unity. A small boy suddenly found himself interested in the birds that visited his yard. He asked his mother endless questions about their nature and their habits. One morning, as the boy watched, the mother set out several bits of food for the birds. Looking at the biscuit crumbs, nuts and other foods, the boy asked, "How do you know which of these foods the birds like?" "I don't know," replied his mother, "but the birds know." Every person has a natural intelligence which knows what is good for the person and what is not, but it must be awakened and activated. When we act with just one part of ourselves, we sense the strain and the incompleteness of that action. This happens when the face cheerfully greets others at the office, while the heart is secretly heavy. There is another way. As our fragmented parts come together to form internal unity, everything we do is done with everything we have. Then face and heart, word and feeling, action and reaction work as one, and our cheerfulness is complete. Interruptions. Dennis commented, "You say that expansion comes by interrupting our habitual ways. I sense the rightness in this. But what about the displeasure we feel when comfortable routines are interrupted? Suppose you're sitting quietly listening to dreamy music. A friend suddenly enters and shuts off the music, cutting off your pleasure. You may be disturbed at first, but then he tells you something. You hear that you must get going in order to make your airplane flight. Seeing the higher necessity, you lose interest in lower pleasure. This is how you should see the interruptions of daily routines. See them as friendly messages about a higher life, for that is what they are. That's a unique way of looking at it. That is why it works." Intuition. Much of what is said about intuition is nonsensical and misleading. It usually appeals to what people want to believe about themselves. Tell someone he possesses rare powers of intuition, and his wish to believe it robs him of all sensible examination of the subject. Such so-called powers are a combination of self-dramatizing self-deception, emotionalized imagination, and lucky guesses. The tragedy is the person's inability to see that his assumed powers have no practical value whatever. He still goes through his day in a dazed worry. True intuition is the natural outcome of consistent self-work, which gives no place to delusions. Characteristic of highly developed men such as Christ, Buddha, Lao Tzu, it is accompanied by goodness, decency, conscience. Such men were able to see things as they are, instantly, without conditioned thought. True intuition first appears to sincere seekers as a brief glimpse of another way, as a faint hint of a new world. There is no mistaking its realness and freshness. Invitation to refreshment. A thirsty wanderer in the desert was in despair over finding water. He struggled frantically from one hilltop to the next in an effort to sight a stream which was supposed to be in the region. His eyes searched in every direction, but without success. While staggering through some dry bushes, his foot caught on a branch, spilling him to the ground. Exhausted and dejected, he remained there, listening to the surrounding silence. Suddenly, his head jerked upwards. He heard something new. It was a faint but definite sound of running water. Strengthened by the sound, he followed it all the way to a clear and cool stream of water. Our very exhaustion can place us in a position to find what we really want to need. A silent but alert mind can hear the first faint invitation to abundant supply and refreshment. J. Jasmine. A woman of ancient Asia was planning to emigrate with her family to a new land. Finding pleasure in gardening, she wished to grow a fragrant flower in the new country where they would settle. Visiting the village market, she asked the merchant for a flower having a rich fragrance. Holding up several plants, the merchant asked her to inhale their fragrance. Pleased by their scents, the woman purchased several plants and took them home. But when the plants lost their fragrance during the next few days, the woman returned with them to the merchant. Hearing her story, he laughed and explained, "Ah, I see. I thought you wanted a short-term fragrance. The plants I sold you were dipped into an inexpensive perfume. Their scent is artificial. That is what most people want. After brief pleasure, they throw them out." Holding up a plant with attractive white flowers, the merchant exclaimed, "This is what you want, jasmine. The jasmine plant has its own perfume. Take it anywhere. It will retain its richness. Be your own richness. It will endure." Jewel of Japan. An inventory was once made of the imperial Japanese jewels. The royal treasure had been kept in a guarded building called the Shosuin. For 900 years, the jewels had rested in the Shosuin, never seen by the public. When a string of amber beads was examined, one bead in the centre of the string appeared to be different from the others. The accumulated dust of centuries was washed off the beads, and the centre stone was examined with deep curiosity. The examiners found a treasure within a treasure. The special bead was not made of common amber, as were the other beads. It was a high-quality pearl of pink-green colour. For hundreds of years, the unique pearl had been mistaken for a piece of amber, but no longer. No matter how long we have lived in a mistaken identity, self-examination can reveal our true and tranquil nature. Jigsaw puzzle. Suppose a child is given a jigsaw puzzle and told, "Set the pieces together rightly and you will have an attractive picture." The interested child works on the puzzle but cannot get the pieces to fit. But trusting the person who gave him the puzzle, he struggles to create the picture, but frustration builds pressure. Suspend the child's story for a moment to see the similarity between his problem and man's baffling condition. Human beings have a life problem. Authorities have assured them of success in working it out, but nothing works. Frustration builds tension and hostility. Persisting carefully with the puzzle, the child makes an astounding discovery. The pieces belong to two entirely different puzzles. The difficulty itself was false. The authority he trusted was both wrong and careless. This is what man must see. The problem itself is false. There is no need for fame and fortune. There is only a need to be a real person. We are not required to be young or attractive or desirable. We are invited to flow in casual harmony with our own true nature. Join yourself. If you have ever tried to listen to two people who were both talking to you at the same time, you will have a good idea of man's divided nature. He is torn between dozens of society's noisy and contradictory voices, each claiming to be right and helpful. By listening to them, he denies himself the right to hear his own intelligence, which is always ready with true counsel. So ignore the voices. Listen only to the inner voice. Practice self-listening. What is the inner voice trying to tell you? When scientists all over the world hear of a dangerous sickness threatening mankind, they join forces to combat it. That is the action of the alert individual. Instead of presenting a weak and divided nature to the world, he stands firmly by joining his own psychic forces. For a topic of discussion in a study group, ask the question, what does it mean to join yourself? Jolt yourself into newness. Battle energetically against usual habits, which means to understand them. There are certain parts of the mind which like nothing better than to sit back and take the course of least resistance. You must jolt them out of complacency, make them join you in the battle for self-conquest. Perhaps you see a reluctance in yourself to drop useless thoughts, such as running a past event through your memory over and over. While gaining a peculiar pleasure from this mental movie, you also realise how it drains your mind. Go against it with conscious effort. Deliberately interrupt the mechanical movie. Jolt yourself. Declare, the reason I want to do this is because certain parts of me do not want to do it. See the new rightness in this practice. See how it is really different from usual ways, so it is certain to produce an unusual life. Join others who have had the courage to jolt themselves into newness. Journal of a winner. One man who won his higher goals allowed few people to see parts of his secret journal, which read, "Darkness cannot stop a refreshing breeze, nor can negative society block a sincere spirit. While people still misunderstand, they cannot give up a wrong action, but with insight, a wrong action gives them up. A great book or lecture is great only to those with budding cosmic greatness. No man remains apart from life liberation without the consent of one part of his mind, which is why self-study is essential. There is complete agreement between cosmic principles and the accurate findings of science. Like city lights, human beings are connected with a central and single source of power. Never disconnect action from awareness, and your ways will be right. Journey towards success. Requested Harold, please give us a technique for more spiritual success. Sacrifice false pleasure. Do this by first becoming aware of the damage of living in false pleasure. Suppose you have some information wanted and needed by another person. Withholding it from him may give you feelings of power and superiority. That is self-damaging false pleasure. Sacrifice the feeling by giving him the information. That removes a barrier on the journey towards success. Lillian raised her hand. What is true pleasure? True pleasure consists of doing whatever your real and whole nature wants to do, having none of the vanity and strain of artificial pleasure. It rolls merrily along, casually, carefree. Drop false pleasure and the authentic will reveal itself. It wants to be known by you. Journey with light. An anxious man was stumbling and falling down a dark road when he met a stranger. The bruised man asked the stranger, "Can you show me how to travel this road without so many hurts?" The stranger nodded towards an object the man held in his hand. "What is that?" the stranger asked. "I don't know," confessed the distressed traveller. "Though I have no idea of its purpose, I feel an urge to keep it." "That," informed the stranger, "is a lantern. It will show you how to travel safely." "But a lantern has light. This object is dark." "Only because you have not made an effort to uncover it. The light is there all right, but you must personally liberate it." "How can I do that?" "By no longer loving the dark way." "Oh yes, you're quite fond of your bruises. The evidence is obvious. You prefer to endure your hurts instead of questioning their necessity. Cease to cherish your present ways. Each time you do this, you liberate more light. Joy in discovery. As part of your program for progress, be aware of how words can be used to distort the facts. Men and women who fail to understand their minds use words as buckets of paint of different colours. White is painted over to appear blue. Orange is covered by a coat of green. Words are commonly misused when describing human characteristics. They're especially misleading and hazardous when used to flatter the weak and the foolish. A man with a neurotic need to dominate and hurt others is credited with being a firm and just authority. A woman afraid to be alone with herself is referred to as an outgoing personality who loves to be with her many friends. An obsession with self-centered fantasies is called a strong personal faith. Persistent greed for self-glory is called admirable courage in the face of obstacles. A mind that takes a joy in new discoveries inquires constantly, "Am I letting words distort the facts? If so, it will stop." Judge of authenticity. There was once a wise man known simply as the judge of authenticity. He counselled seekers who wished to know whether their new teachers could really help them unravel the mysteries of life. One morning, he spoke in turn to 4 visitors. "You approached that teacher because he was recommended by friends. Does he have something within himself worth recommending? You heard someone who was surrounded by mindless multitudes. Cease to believe that crowds indicate authenticity. You were attracted to that teacher by your own reckless desperation for answers. The unwary are easily exploited. You have found a dynamic human personality who impresses you. Do you want to be impressed or rescued?" A seeker asked, "But how can we be sure of a teacher?" Dare to teach yourself the first few lessons, such as the need for self-dependence and the value of simplicity. This will develop your capacity to recognize a true teacher when he comes along. Judgment and awareness. Man thinks he possesses clear and accurate judgment. It is one of his most disastrous illusions. Man is both the cause and the victim of this illusion. Bring up any subject, religion, politics, social schemes, and a man leaps to his feet with loud opinions. The fact is, he knows nothing, absolutely nothing. He is a talking parrot who has not the slightest awareness of being one. Anyone trying to tell him about his stupendous ignorance is scorned or ignored. True judgment consists of seeing things as they are, not as the individual has been taught to see them. An absence of conditioned self-interest is essential to the reign of true judgment. Craving and deceit and possessiveness distort clear judgment, which can exist only in a pure atmosphere. Only awareness of lack of judgment can begin to awaken cosmic judgment, and only self-honesty can awaken awareness. Jungle of pretense. Pretense must be clearly seen as a disadvantage. One harmful pretense is to act as though one does not care about something which is really quite irritating. This is repression and division, causing tension. There is a carefree land, but it exists on the other side of the jungle of pretense, which must be explored. Let your mind guard against an attempted invasion by all kinds of unworthy thoughts. Never doubt its power to repel harmful ideas. Because of daily defeats, we assume that the mind is inferior to whatever happens to us. This is a wrong assumption. We simply lack knowledge of the mind's actual supremacy. The needed knowledge can be won. So let your mind admit only the high and the noble, just as a seawall permits only the higher waves to splash over to the other side. K. Keep your day simple. A complex mind cannot understand simple ideas. Only mental simplicity has contact with simple ideas. In fact, the two are really one. Simplicity is understanding. The simplification of your own life frees you from the complexities which chain other people around you. You can be in daily association with confused people, understanding them perfectly and being personally unaffected by the problems they have not yet as solved for themselves. This peaceful position is a natural outcome of self-simplification. Take a commonly bothersome belief and work on it. Take the idea that the thoughts of other people can harm you. That is absolutely false, so determine to see it as false. When a person gets hurt, it is not the thoughts of others which do it, but the person's own wrong thoughts about their thoughts. Self-correction is total correction. Others may have harmful thoughts, but mental maturity provides immunity from them. A fox may be dangerous, but not to a lion. Key to self-conquest. When 3 students returned from a study session, their teacher questioned them in turn. What did you read? A book on religion. What did you read? A book on philosophy. What did you read? Myself. Ah, the teacher exclaimed. You're getting it. You can lead an elephant in front of a man, and if he does not want to see it, he will not see it. He will see the elephant only if it gives him pleasure or helps to avoid pain. A true man makes it a point to see what his negative parts do not want to see, which eventually banishes the negative parts. Learn to read yourself. That is the key to self-conquest. Kidnapped mankind. Imagine 2 men kidnapped by bandits and taken to a desert where they are forced to work for their captors. After several weeks, they become somewhat accustomed to their captivity, but one of them finally sees an opportunity to escape. When informing his friend of it, he hears the astounding reply, "Leave here? Not me, I'm staying." "Staying?" gasps the other man. "But why?" "It is a matter of loyalty and gratitude," comes the explanation. "After all, these men have fed and clothed me over the weeks. Also, they've relieved me of the responsibility of thinking for myself. You know, loyalty and gratitude are great virtues." An incredible scene that could not happen? It happens in the psychological world all day long. Accustomed to their chains, people feel false loyalty and gratitude towards their captors. The good news of liberation makes little, if any, impression on their minds. They cannot see their slavery, for they call it security. Only those who call slavery slavery can escape. Kindness. During a class discussion on human ways, a businessman asked several questions. One of them was short and to the point. Why do people cause so much trouble to people? He heard, "Stop and think about it for a minute. What kind of a man does not cause problems to others? Obviously, it's a man who is not a problem to himself. He has no inner pressures to overflow and hurt others. What conclusion do you reach from this? The businessman answered, the only way to be truly considerate of others is to straighten ourselves out. Few people really grasp the lesson you have just read. They do not see that authentic self-kindness and authentic other kindness are the same thing, for both flow from the same inner nature. Where does real kindness begin? It begins with individual permission for the truth to enter and heal the inner condition. King and subjects. There was once an insignificant man with a greedy obsession to become king of the land. Through trickery and violence, he fought his way to the throne. One day a stream of visitors came before him. The first was an army commander who requested a promotion and special favours. To ensure the commander's continued loyalty, the king agreed to the promotion. Next came a powerful businessman who put pressure on the king to grant him a valuable piece of public land. Though fearful of public protest, the king agreed, for he had profited personally from the country's business. Then came the king's unpleasant wife, who angrily demanded to be taken along on the king's future travels. Knowing she knew his many dark secrets, the king resentfully consented. That evening the exhausted king flung himself into a chair to groan, "Oh, I'm the slave of my subjects." He added philosophically, "However, it does prove one thing. A good man is often the victim of greedy people." Kingdom within. People do not find it easy at the start to accept the great fact of the kingdom of heaven within. Born and raised in a psychological wilderness, men and women know only the nature of the wilderness. Anything above that is the strange and the unknown. Tell them of another region and they either reject it outright or distort it to suit their fancies and preferences. Many people agree intellectually, taking the inner kingdom as an interesting and stimulating religious theory. But it is not a theory. It is a spiritual certainty, but one requiring individual discovery. Sense the kingdom within. That is the same as coming home to yourself. It is the same as remembering your original nature. This remembrance comes dimly at first, expanding swiftly or slowly according to individual receptivity. It is like a man visiting the countryside scenes of his boyhood. He tries to remember the location of a favourite tree he used to climb, which remembrance comes as he strolls and thinks. Kingly condition. Think deeply about the following guides until they lead you all the way to a kingly condition. When confused about the best course for your life, do not battle that confusion. Make no attempt to clear your mind by making impulsive choices or by seeking allies for the battle. That is like fighting fog with your fists. Nothing good can happen. When puzzled, do not do what you usually do. This is of utmost importance. Bewildered people cry out in desperation for an answer, which is then supplied by their own habit thinking, which is always wrong. They might attract something which appears to relieve the crisis, but they are now simply confused in a new way. Sooner or later, the sufferer is right back where he started, only sadder, for another pretty bubble has burst. When remaining quiet, still, not battling, the disorder disappears. Why? Because confusion comes from habitual and mechanical thinking. When mechanical thought stops, it can no longer create confusion. In that quiet space is clarity. Knight in shining armour. As part of a class discussion, Ronald was asked to speak about himself. He began, "I know how hard people fight the rescuing facts. I know because I battled them myself for many miserable years. Mythology tells of some men who turned to stone just by gazing at the frightful face of Medusa. Just so do men become hardened against truth by staring at fame and fortune. A short time after timidly entering these studies, I saw clearly why people are so touchy, so sensitive. I realised why the smallest criticism is taken as a terrible insult to their good names. The reason is this: jump on a toy balloon and you'll hear a bang. Most people are empty balloons. Strangely, they defend their emptiness. The greater the vacuum, the louder the explosion of indignation. You are looking, Ronald laughed, at a punctured balloon. Ronald concluded, as a boy I yearned to be a knight in shining armour seeking adventure. I never dreamed the quest would be an inward one. Knock loudly. When knocking on the door to self-knowledge, knock loudly. Have no timidity. You will be neither criticised nor refused when boldly seeking admittance. Truth loves the sincerely persistent person who will not stop knocking until the door opens. Let the knowledge in the next paragraph circulate throughout your mind. That will be a loud knock. One way to explain human carelessness is to say that a man lets someone else represent him. This he does quite unconsciously through submissive involvement with individuals and organisations. He never represents himself, his real and independent nature, though he is convinced he does. He can continue to let others speak for him, or he can learn to speak for and from himself, but he cannot stand on both sides at once. This is known quite well by the man who really represents himself. Know from yourself. A teacher of esotericism practiced a certain technique for raising the consciousness of his students. From time to time, while listening to the remarks of someone in class, the teacher asked the student to pause for a moment. You have just made a good statement, said the teacher. But I wish to know something. Did you say it from yourself or from someone else? Here is what I mean. Suppose that idea had never been spoken or understood by anyone on earth. Could you still have said it? This challenge helped a student. It enabled him to distinguish between quoting from memory and knowing from his original nature. Know from yourself. That is the great state. Reflect upon the following thoughts. Only when a man knows from his whole and united self can he do what he knows. For example, anyone can talk about love, but to truly express love, a man must reside above the level of mere words. He must reside on the level of cosmic wholeness. Knowledge for power. A manufacturer had a pattern by which he created a special kind of towel for the beach. The pattern produced defective towels. The manufacturer broke the pattern. No more defective towels appeared. You must break the pattern. You must smash the pattern of your present life. There is no use trying to repair the pattern. It cannot be repaired, for defects are everywhere. It must be broken and tossed out once and for all. A challenge? Of course. Everything within you will rise up in fearful protest. Opposing thoughts will try to deceive you in 1,000 ways. They will slyly whisper that you're already on the right road, so there's no need to change anything. Or they will declare that it is a hopeless situation, insisting that sorrow and despair are man's inescapable prison. But now you know. You know what to expect. This knowledge is power to ignore these dishonesties and pass onwards. Know yourself. When knowing yourself, it is really quite easy to take care of yourself. Burdens arise when we insist upon taking care of property not belonging to our natural self. We take on unnecessary tasks because of failure to see them as such. Take someone with a need to feel valuable to others. This will also include the need for appreciation and compliments. So to win these feelings, he sacrifices himself to others. He submits to the wishes or demands of others as a trade, a bargain. He agrees, I will do what you wish if you will occasionally make me feel liked and loved. Having traded his psychic integrity for a few sparkling beads of approval, he must now carry the self-imposed burden. Its wrongness is sensed, but he does not understand how it started or how it can be ended. He lacks self-knowledge. When knowing yourself, it is really quite easy to take care of yourself.